Okay, so what we're looking at here is a super basic UI. Obviously, we're not UI folks, but this is the parser for one of our customers, a customer called CSATs that does reviews of surgeons and gives surgeons a lot of feedback so that they can improve and become better surgeons. And so what happens is the surgeons, the surgeon who is actually performing the surgery is, like doing all the suturing and stuff, which we're going to see in a moment. And but the reviewers, who are either a surgeon themselves, an assistant to the surgery, or just anyone out on the crowd that participates, is providing feedback in the form of written text, or in the case of the physicians, they might be speaking into a microphone and actually and saying things. And so they'll say, stuff like, okay, the surgeon, pulls well with both hands. And so what we see here is the parser has taken this sentence, surgeon pulls well with both hands, has analyzed it from a sentiment standpoint. So the sentiment it assigned was positive. And then it also kind of normalized it into, good by manual dexterity. Because there's a lot of different ways to say good by manual dexterity. They might just come right out and say, oh, uses both hands really well, or has good by manual dexterity, etc. And this top line here is the sentiment applied to the overall review. So they might have, put in another sentence, and they might add something. So they might say something like drop the needle at 5:03. And in this case, they tend to be referring to suturing. So when somebody's in there and actually suturing something. And so then here you see that that the parser now still assigns positive to the prior sentence. This new drop the needle sentence is seen as a negative. It's flagged as both an observation and an example of poor needle handling. And the overall sentiment is positive, and that's likely because the signal coming in from the first one was pretty strong. But we might kind of bring it over the top, and they might oftentimes they'll say something like overall, she did a great job. And so now you see, the overall positive sentiment, the confidence went even up higher, and you see that all three sentences individually are annotated on sentiment, polarity, and they also have this kind of normalized structure. So far I'd say, we're probably, if you think back to like our data, info, knowledge, insights graph, we're probably looking at something like knowledge, where we're starting to learn more about what was actually said. And so what this customer has done is actually, gone a little bit further and started to kind of glean this across a lot more surgeons. So for example, this is the view that, surgeon 1016, obviously we can't tell you the name of the surgeon, but the model is saying stuff like, okay, well, 38% of your comments had a positive sentiment associated with them. And that's actually 11% lower than average. So that gives them this higher level insight. The user, the surgeon gets more information, and then they might they can kind of drill in and get more detail. So on the positive side, they see that, oh, I've got good control, so they're using this robot. And on the needs improvement side, they kind of favor one hand. And then of course they can drill all the way down and see the actual sentence. So in this case, for poor camera positioning, they can get in and get the specific example. Right off the bat, the view could have been optimized by bringing the camera in and more anterior. So again, an example of like starting off, with raw text, being able to kind of walk up from data up through to this more sort of high-level insights, and then put that right in front of the user to get something compelling.